Okay, so up until now, we have been writing all our linear equations this way with an x and a y, yes? Well, now that we're in grade 10, and quite frankly, for the rest of your real math career after grade 10, you're going to be not writing a y. Your y equals your output, but you're going to start writing it in this form, f(x). And we read that as f of x. And what that means is a function of x. Now, function just means some math. So you're going to be doing some math with the variable x. Everybody cool? So instead of writing it this way, you're now going to write them this way. F of x equals 3x minus 1. Now, you guys are smart kids. F of x is the name of this particular function. Just like that particular student is named Andrea. The student beside her is named Gerline. They are not the same person, so they get different names. Okay? This is just the name of the function. We read it f of x. And what it means is I'm going to take x and I'm going to multiply it by 3 and subtract 1. Everybody cool? X is still our input. But y, which used to equal our output, now is written as f of x. Is everybody cool? Some of you won't have seen this before if you're taking math 10 for the first time. So what this means is if I start with f of x equals 3x minus 1, and then I tell you input some numbers. Well, do I still get to choose the inputs? Yeah. So if I input 1, x is now 1, correct? So it's not the f of x that I want, it is the f of what? 1. And since that x is now a 1, what does that x become? A 1. 3 times 1 is 3 minus 1 is 2. Everybody with me? And we write it as the f of 1 equals 2. Now here, this is the x, this is the output. So how would I write this as an ordered pair? I'm just going to wait a sec while you all rethink about what I just said while I repeat it. This is the x, the input. This is the output. So what is the ordered pair here, Brooklyn?
It would be like bracket 1. Oh no, bracket 1 and then colon 2.
Done. That's it. Because that's our x and that's our output, which we used to call y, but now it's our output. Is everybody cool? Okay. So down here, I have just to remind you of how easy this is. I've written this in the old school way. So, and I have given you some inputs. Everybody with me? So first thing I want you to do is tell me the 4 outputs. Go. But Mr. Myers, there's a fraction. You're strong. You can do it.
Mr. Myers, the F isn't really anything.
The F is just the name. Like your name is David. My name is Matt.
So the equation doesn't matter.
Not even a little bit. Who would like to tell me the first output? -3. What letter is that? What number is that? That means x is -2, yes? What is half of -2? Yes, it is negative 1, but I would like 23 of you to be able to tell me that half of negative 1 is, or half of negative 2 is negative 1. It's a little odd to me that 23 of you don't know that. What is half of 1? Or half of 2? 1. So what is half of negative 2? Negative 1. You say it like, oh, I know that, but 20 of you said the wrong thing there. What is negative 1 minus 2? Negative 3. So your output is negative 3. I know sometimes multiplying and subtraction can get confusing, but slow down and think about your answer before you yell it out. What is my input? What is half of 0? All right. What is 0 minus 2? All right. Now we're on a bit of a roll. What is half of 1? 1/2. Let's stay with fractions. What is 1/2 minus 2? Negative 1.5. And what is 4? What is half of 4? 2. What is 2 minus 2? 0. Excellent. So everybody is good. Now, this is what you have done in the 6th through 9th grades. That's not what we do anymore. This would not be written that way. How would that be written? How do I write that the way we want it written now? Fx equals 1/2 x minus 2. Yeah? And where do the input numbers go? In where there's an x. So the first one would be the f of what? Negative 2. And what would I write out? 1/2 of negative 2 minus 2, which would be negative 1 minus 2, which would be negative 3. Everybody good? Okay. What would the next one be? F of what? 0. And it would be 1/2, 0 minus 2. What would the next one be? F1 equals 1/2, 1 minus 2. And what would the last one be? F of 4 equals 1/2, 4 minus 2. Please tell me you see the pattern. The x's go, the inputs go in everywhere you see an x. Is that complicated? No. Can I change all these letters? Yes. The f is just the name of the function. So if I have a different function, I can give it any other letter's name. Okay? So if I told you, here's another function, 3x minus 1, is that the same as that? No. So can that guy be called f of x in this question? No. That guy would have to be given another letter, g of x, because he's got a different set of rules. Is everybody cool with that? Now, what would the first one be over here? It would be the g of what? Negative 2. And it would be 3 times negative 2 minus 1. Does everybody understand function notation? Yeah. Awesome possums. Let's move along and see if you indeed really do. Is that a function? Yeah. Excellent. Is it a linear function? Yeah. How do you know? No exponents. Excellent. You guys are on fire today. That's kind of insensitive, what with the fact BC is burning down. They're not on fire. They're doing very, very well. Huh? Here it's raining. I don't know if it's raining that far away. It wasn't raining in Chilliwack when I left. I had to get all the way to the highway before I hit the pouring rain. I was like, damn it! And I had to turn around and go back and get a car. All right, so what is that? What does a 2 written there mean? That I have an input of what? So I do not want the f of x, which equals 2x minus 7. What do I want? The f of 2, which equals what? 2 no, don't do that. And it's not because you're in trouble, Fawaz. It's because you're jumping straight to the answer. And a great many of you, not you necessarily, but a great many of you are very, very bad at mental math. So I really recommend, especially when you are learning, and especially now while it's simple, don't do that thing that all kids do, which is tell me the answer when it's simple. Do the work. What is it? 2. Then what? Minus 7. What is 2 times 2? 4 minus 7. 4 minus 7 is? Negative 3. What's the ordered pair here? 2, negative 3. Okay. What's the next one? F of negative 3, which means what? Which is negative 6 minus 7, which is negative 13. And what's the ordered pair? Negative 3, negative 13. Is everybody good? Everybody? So what if I asked you for the f of 3 halves? What would that be? Again, don't bother thinking of the answer. Write it out. 2 times 3 halves minus 7, which would be what? See, David, if you write it out, you would see that what you said was not right.
Oh, I thought you just moved that.
Oh, no, of course not, because I don't like decimals. I can work with fractions, because fractions are easier. Because what happens to both those 2's? They cancel out. So really, I have 3 minus 7, yes? Which is? Negative 4. Okay. Because 2 times 3 halves is 2 over 1 times 3 over 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 1 is 2. 6 over 2 equals 3. Cancel them. Hopefully the way you were taught to multiply fractions years ago. All right. So everybody's starting to pick this up. What if I gave you f of 2.5? I do give you a decimal. What do you do? It's 2 times 2.5 minus 3, which is? Sorry, minus 7. So it's 5 minus 7, which is negative 2. Good. Now finally, the real test, the one that really bothers me. What if I gave you the f? I want the f of lightning bolt. Two lightning bolt minus 7. Done. No matter what that is, that goes in for x. No matter what. Can I make that any clearer? This makes no sense, but that's still what you do. Does everybody understand me? Ekti. I'm sorry. That's the function. Over here? I told you I wanted the f of negative 3 right there. So it's not x, it was negative 3. So negative 3 goes in there. Okay? Everybody good? David?
So for f3/2, when we write it in brackets, would we write it in fractions and then -4?
I really don't care, David. I'm tired of trying to convince you guys that fractions are actually better than decimals. So I give up. Write whatever the heck you want. All right, is everybody good? Okay, I hope you're not liars. All right. There is my function, right? What is the first input for which I am seeking? 6. So I want the g of 6. I don't want the g of x, I want the g of 6. So what do I write? -2/3 times 6 plus 1. What is -2/3 times 6?
4?
Close. -4. -4 plus 4 is what? -3. So what is my ordered pair with this first input? Other way around. 6, -3. And I put that on the graph. Where is 6, -3? Out to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and down 1, 2, 3. Is everybody good with that one? I had x originally. I was told to input 6. So I put 6 where x is. Then I multiply -2/3 times 6, which is -12/3. -12/3 is -4. -4 plus 1 is -3. Okay. Now, guys, please do not take this the wrong way. You are in the 10th grade, and I'm only asking you to multiply and add. One step, and then a second step. Okay? I need you to be able to do this math. All right? You have to be able to do some arithmetic to do math. What is the next input? G of -3. So what do I write? What happens to those 3's? Cancel out. So I have -2 plus 1, which is -1. What is the ordered pair? -3, -1. So I go to -3, 1, 2, 3, and down to -1.
So Mars is actually -3. So
-2 plus 1. Oh, it's -3. I put a 3 in there. So that should have been 2 plus 1, which would have been 3. So it was -3, 3. Thank you, David, and anybody else who saw it. And finally, what is the G? 0. So what do I write? Which is 1. So what's my ordered pair? 0, 1. 0, 1. And since I know it's a straight line, I put the red dot one spot in the wrong spot. Since I know it's a straight line, is everybody good? Now, what do I know about every x value on that line? Pardon me? Since this makes a straight line, and I connected it because I know that I can take any number, multiply it by negative 2/3 and add 1, what does that mean for every x on that line? For example, right there, what x is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yes? So that is x equals 5. What can I do with that 5? Pardon me, Ekdeep? No, all the x's aren't negative. As you can see right here, this is a positive x and it's on the graph. I'm going to say it again. What does this mean in English? Read that out loud. So what does that mean? X is going to be 5, right? So what does that mean in this function? What's the name of this function that we are working on right now? G of? No. The name of the function is g of x, Amy. Now, what does this say? So where can I put that 5? Into the g. So I would get g of 5 would equal something, yes? Which would be negative 10/3 plus 1, right? 10/3 is 3 1/3. Negative 3 1/3 plus 1 is negative 2 1/3, right? So my g of 5 is negative 2 1/3. Let's check. Did I go down 2 and a bit? So what does that tell me about every x? Does that automatically give me my y value? As long as I put it in. I'm confused. Perhaps I've said the question poorly. What would happen if I went way out to here? That is the g of what? There is x equals 13. So what would I do? It would be the g of 13. And then if I actually put 13 into the function, what would I get? A negative number somewhere down here, because that line is going to keep going. Do you all understand what I am saying? No matter what. So if I told you the g of 100,000, where would the output be? All the way down here somewhere, yes? Because a negative 100,000 is way out there. What if I told you x was negative 1,000,000? Then the y would be way up here, because negative 1,000,000 would be way over there. Is everybody good? Okay, now, using this information, so I'm going to rewrite it again, just so we're aware. Negative 2/3 x plus 1. Find x if the g of x is 7. Now look closely. What have you been given in this question? An input or an output?
Input.
I'll put down my pen until you all can decide. Why? Because x is the input. Have you been given an x? No, because what is that right there? X. So I don't know my input. My input is still unknown. I only know my output. So how do I take this information and put it over here properly? Something equals 7, right? What over here gets the 7?
The negative
The g of x gets a 7. So how do I write that out now that I know something? Pardon me, Simran? 7x. No. The g of 7, but no, Amy, because I don't know the g of 7. I only know the g of x. Brooklyn. Yes. This tells me what the g of x is. So what do I write there? 7. And what does the g of x equal? Negative 2/3 x plus 1. So what's my job now? To go back to find the input because I have an output. How do I do that? I have to do algebra. Pardon me? Yes. So how do I do that? Because you need to write it out. Because you guys are bad at algebra. Brooklyn. I wouldn't cancel out the 3. I would get rid of that 1 because we're trying to end up at x, right? So you're going to bring the 1 over here, yeah? So that's going to make it minus 1. What's minus 1 plus 7? 6. So now I have 6 equals negative 2/3 x. Now I want to get rid of that 3, right? So I multiply both sides by 3. Right? And I get 18 equals, sorry, I was wrong, so I was working in my head without writing it out. 18 equals negative 2x. Now what? Divide by what? Negative 2. So x equals what? Negative 9. What's the ordered pair here? Negative 9. 7. And does that make sense? When I go over all the way to negative 9, I should be up here somewhere, shouldn't I? Is everybody good? All right. So now, prove it. That's algebra, David. I don't know. All the steps are right there, David. What part of those steps do you not understand?
How did you get that 18?
I had to multiply both sides by 3 to cancel that 3. Of course you did.
Don't you do fractions? Like 6 over 1 on the part.
David, how do you get rid of that 2? Okay, so if I told you this was 1/5, you could have divided 10 by 1/5. If you do 6 divided by negative 2/3, you will get 18. You'll get negative 9 is what you'll get if you actually do it. But I am showing you all the steps. I multiplied by 3 to get rid of the division. 6 times 3 is 18. Then I was left with a negative 2, so I divided by that negative 2. Okay? The reason I show you that is because too many of you don't know how to deal with fractions on your calculator. And this doesn't require you to do any fractions anywhere. It's all regular numbers. Brooklyn.
How do you know if you're adding or dividing them?
It's the opposite of what you see. So I needed to get rid of a plus 1, so I do a minus 1. I needed to get rid of divided by 3, so I do times by 3.
This one was a negative 2.
Okay, I wanted to get rid of a negative 2 times x, right? I wanted to get rid of
If there's a thing there,
if there's a thing there. What
X.
thing?
So if it's just if there's no x there, but you can add the 2.
Yeah. You do the opposite. See, this is what, because people don't pay attention.
That screwed me up. That's why.
You have to do the opposite mathematical operation. That is the goal. And your final goal is to get x by itself. So to get rid of this thing that is attached to x, you see negative 2 times x. So you have to do the mathematical reverse, which is divide by negative 2. Okay? So let's do this. Make sure everybody gets it because, What's my function? M of x equals 4/3 x plus 2. What is the first input that you are given? 7. So I need the m of 7. So what do I write? 4/3 7 plus 2, because the x is now 7, yes? Everybody with me? Okay, that's 28 over 3, yes? Right? Which is 9 1/3, correct? 9 1/3 plus 2 is what? What's 9 plus 2? So this must be 11 1/3. Is everybody good? Yeah? Okay. What's the next input that I've been given? M of 1. So I get, what do I write? 4/3 1 plus 2, yes? 4/3 is 1 1/3, yes? What is 1 1/3 plus 2? 3 1/3. Is everybody good? Okay. What is different in the third one? I have the output. So do I write M bracket anything, or do I write 5? I write 5. And what does that equal? 4/3 x plus 2. And what's my job? To find x, right, Gerline? So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, right? So what does that get me? 3 equals 4/3 x. Now what? Times by 3, because I want to get rid of divided by 3. So 9 equals 4x. Now what? Divide by 4, and x equals 9/4. Can everybody do that? Yes? That's fine. Amrit first, then Brooklyn.
I'll look at like the very first step. How do you know where to put that?
What does that say in English? No. M of x equals 5. What do you see right there? M of x. M of x is 5. What do you see there? So what do you write there? 5. 5.
That's the same thing.
No, it's not. This says the M of 7. Just the x part of it has changed. So I put a 7 in for x's. This says the whole thing is 5. Okay? Do you understand? All right. Brooklyn.
Do you want us to go a step further?
I really don't care. I really couldn't care less, right? That's not what I'm like. That's what your grade 6 teacher was hung up on, right? I am not hung up on that. I'm hung up on algebra and understanding inputs and outputs. Sydney. It is not important, but I wouldn't recommend it. Here is why. This math was not complicated, was it? To do this as a decimal, what do you have to do? To enter this in your calculator as a decimal, what would you have to do? 4 divided by 3 times 7 plus 2. 7 button pushes. How many of you have ever sent a text with the wrong word in it? Every one of you put your hand up. Since you all do your calculating with your texting thumbs instead of pointer like you should, What is going to happen if you have to push 11 buttons on your calculator? What is there a chance every time you push a button of doing wrong? Pushing the wrong button. How many of you believe your calculator before you think about whether or not the answer makes any sense? All of you put your hand up. So I'll ask you again. Should you go to decimals? No. Because you guys believe your calculators. If you made a mispunch on your calculator and I asked you to do 7 plus 3 and you somehow hit something wrong and you hit 7 times 3 and hit equals and your calculator said 21, if the test question said 7 plus 3, you guys would all write 21. Every single one of you. And I would say, why? And you would say, my calculator said so. I know this for a fact because I have given you questions that aren't quite that hard, like hypotenuse questions, and you tell me that a triangle that is 3 by 4, somehow, if I go here, is 25. Because you did 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 25, forgot to hit square root. And then when I ask you, why did you write 25 there? Calculator said so. Yeah, it did, because you didn't do the math right. That, Sydney, is why I recommend not going to decimals. You are welcome to. I don't care. I can work in both. But I guarantee you, you're going to make an error. Not you. I shouldn't have said you. One could make an error in button pushing, and one, if one were under the age of 30, would believe their calculator instead of what the real answer is. That's all I'm saying. If you believe that you know what you are doing, then you should be able to go ahead and do number 6 for me. Go. Simran, you should be happy. It's 20,000 degrees in here today. It's not cold. It's 20,000 degrees in here. I should give you all laptops. The laptop is very warm. You can all huddle around it. Because we're not allowed to have campfires now. So everybody can put all their... Huh? Propane fires aren't fires. They're flame. There's the difference. Actually, I was surprised. My brother-in-law has a propane fire. And if you wait long enough, they actually are quite toasty once the rocks get hot.
And you don't smell like campfire after.
That's the whole point. Then the whole point is to smell like campfire. So when you walk into Dairy Queen after a week in camping, you stink of campfire. And everybody knows how awesome you are because you went camping. What did they do? They're going to get a blizzard in the break between when they tweeted about going to get a blizzard and then Instagrammed it when they actually had their blizzard. Then they can get back to their couch. What did you do? Camp, which is awesome. Same reason I like to not brush my hair after I go surfing and let it get all hard and spiky from salt water. Why's your hair like that? Because I was in the ocean for 7 hours. What'd you do? Drank coffee at Star Yucks.
For 7 hours. For 7 hours.
7 hours is a pretty average day of surfing for me. Yes, it is a lot. I would go longer if I were younger and didn't get tired. Actually, it's not that I get tired. It's because I have kids that get bored. And I have to deal with them. Because they're soft. Who would like to tell me what to do with the first one? Oh, you still need more time? No problem. I got plenty. As a matter of fact, I have 3,600 seconds per hour. And there's 5 hours. So I have well over 15,000 seconds.
So if I count 50,000 seconds, if I count this school day will be...
A little longer, because it's 18,000.
Well, so you'll be...
When I did the Tough Mudder, I counted my steps because I knew it was going to take 20,000 steps. Well, it's 20. It's a 20K run. A step is about a meter is about a step. 20,000 meters, so 20,000 steps. Yeah, well, it's an average, right? Your running stride is slightly longer than your walking stride. It's not like I can run for 20 kilometers. I'm fat. But that being said, I did do the whole race in 3 hours without training. My buddy's like, "You gotta train." I don't have to train. Please. It's only 20K.
Should you do the ultra mega marathon for run for water?
Huh?
You should do like the ultra mega marathon
Nope.
for run for water.
Nope. I run when I'm being chased.
My friend's dad did it. He's like a huge guy. He's like a personal trainer. And he's probably like 6'2". And like he trained for like 6 months. And he did it. And he literally he started to cry after. Because he's like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
The words is like, I made my entire life.
Nope.
Like, so long. Like an insane amount of time.
An ultra marathon is 100 kilometers.
Okay, so it's way more over 100. It took them like 12 hours.
The Ironman takes some people 24 hours. The Ironman is a 4.6 kilometer swim, a 250 kilometer bike ride, and a 40 kilometer run all at once. You guys could barely drive that far at once without taking a break. No offense. I couldn't do it either. I'm not saying I could. There's no way. Do the marathon. I can drive for 20 hours straight. I know it's not safe, but I can do it. Yes, way higher. You're better to be drunk than you are sleepy. Awake and drunk is a better driver than... Which of course means I am not saying...
I disagree.
No, it's like science proven.
It's so awful.
Yeah, it's true. And, surprisingly, you can't get a ticket for driving sleepy. But you can lose your license for driving drunk. But driving, you can lose your license for driving like this. But you can't for driving like this. That's okay. But this is a $600 fine. Nothing wrong with our laws. Nothing. All right. Is that enough seconds, Harmeet? Excellent. So what is my first one? H of 2. So what do I write? Negative 1/4. Then a 2 minus 4. What's negative 1/4 times 2? Which is negative 1/2, right? What's negative 1/2 minus 4? Yes, which is negative 4.5. Right? Nice job. Negative 1/2, take away 4. If you have negative 50 cents, you take away 4 more, you have negative 450. Ecti. No. Because it says right here to do the H of 2.
They're both excellent. You should like both excellent.
Oh, come on, Nikki. I'm sorry.
I'm just confused because Harmeet said exactly what I just said and you said, oh. I said it 5 times. You're like, I'm confused. Harmeet says, it's an X. And you're like, oh, I got it now. I'm very confused. I was very nice about it. I gave you 20 examples. I was like, here's an X, what do you do? And you're like, I don't get it. Harmeet turns around meanly and says, it's an X! I got it.
I didn't mean to be mean.
But this isn't about you, Harmeet. This is about Ekti. I show him 20 times nicely, step by step. You turn around, it's an X!
Maybe we just need to do it one more time, like, to get this.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Akash. So it maybe isn't me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Because I was worried I'd have to start talking to you guys the way Harmeet just talked to Ekdeep, and maybe we'd get somewhere.
Should.
That's how I was taught.
All right. So, what's the next one? Wait!
Okay.
Ekdeep is going to tell us. What is the next one? It is not h of x, it is h of what? What? Ekdeep, we've already done that one. H of 2. Now we're doing this one. So what do I put in instead of x? Awesome! So this is negative 2, which means it's negative 1/4 times what? Yeah! Wait. See, I was nice still and it worked this time. And then what? Minus 4. What's negative 1/4 times negative 2? Positive 1/2
-4.
minus 4. So if I have 50 cents, which is a half, and I take away $4, what am I left with? Negative 3.5. Are you really asking me how to subtract? Think before you answer this question. You are in the 10th grade. Are you asking me how to subtract? Good. Then don't ask me how to subtract. And the last one is different. How? I don't have an input. I have an output. So instead of writing h of something, I only can write negative 4. Negative 4 equals what? Negative 1/4 x minus 4. How do I deal with that? Add 4 to both sides. 0 equals 1/4, negative 1/4 x. What does x have to be?
0.
Right, x equals 0. Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, now, if you're good, you should be able to do this with a line. Okay? Now, did your guys' f of x and g of x print? Do you have a little f of x by the curve?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, great. So what does that mean? That means the black line for me, which is the curvy line for you, is f of x. Everybody cool? Yeah. The blue line for me, which is a straight line for you, is g of x, yes? Yeah. So any work I do is going to be either with f or g of x, right? So this first one is the f of negative 3, yes? So am I dealing with the curve or the straight line? The curve, because the curve is the f of x. That happens sometimes. What do I have here?
-3.
Is negative 3 an x value or a y value? It's an x value. On which line? The curve or on the curve? So I need to go out to the f of negative 3. There is negative 3 because there's the x. And I need to find the output on the curve. Where is it? Right there. Negative 2. Is everybody good with that? Yes, Harmeet.
So you basically just find a thing and then you write it down?
Yes. Often how math works. You find an answer and write it down.
Maybe there's another step. I was just asking.
No, there isn't. Now, what is the next one that I'm going to do in green? G of 0. The 0 is what? An x or a y value? It is an x, so x equals 0. So I go to x equals 0, and now I need to find the output on which line? The straight one. What is it?
2.
Positive 2, and I'm going to highlight that with green. And then I'm going to write it here. Equals 2. Okay, what about this one? I go to negative 2. Then I find the output on the F. It is right there. Negative 3. Now, something strange has happened in D. What has happened in D? I have a what value, Gerline? A y value. And that y value is what? 1. This is a y value. So I need to go to 1 on the y scale and find what the x is on which line? The straight or the curve? Why is it the curve? Because it's f of x. That's going to be a purple one. What is it? Right there. What's the answer? 0. Oh, you guys, you are on fire.
How's it 0?
Never mind.
Yeah. You know what? We to be insensitive, we should bring some of you guys up to the interior and put out those fires right away. Never mind.
4 is fine.
Why is it 0, Amaret? Well, if that's the y value of 1, what's the x value for that point?
Because it's on the one.
If that's the y value, what is the x value associated with it? All right. And what about this one? Is that a y or is it? It's a y value. Excellent. And it is a y value of what? 3. So I go up to 3 and I need to find the x for 3, which is over here, isn't it? So what's the answer? Negative 1. Oh my good gravy, you guys. So let's do these two. You can figure them out. What is the g of 4? Which line do I go to? Yes.
So the reason you got negative 1 is because on the positive being whatever line is like touching on like the left side of that's one, negative 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
No,
No.
I thought it makes you because I'm like, I don't know what
Okay. G of 4. Where do I go? Out to 4, and then on the G I go down to 2. Right? So that one, I'm going to make a big red dot. That equals negative 2. Now, the f of x is negative 2. So where do I go? I go down to 2, and I go across, right? What happens? Okay. What happened right here? Don't they both have a negative 2? So what's the answer here? Negative 3 and negative 1, because I hit the line twice. Is everybody good?
anytime you get a line like that, you're both values.
Uh-huh. Is everybody good?
Yup.
Okay, now, it's almost break time. I'm going to leave you with one problem before we go, and then you guys are going to work when you get back on page 319. Here is the one problem. The f of x equals 2x plus 3. The g of x equals 5 minus 4x. I want the g of the f of 2. Yes, it does. It makes perfect sense. That's your problem.
Oh, I see. So you figure out.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. It looks confusing.
It looks confusing, but it isn't.
What's the X value?
You have an x value. Yes, you do. You have an x value. Right. The f of 2 equals 7. Okay? What do you see right there? F of 2 is 7, so I need the g of 7, don't I? Where does that go? Yes, you do.
To the other part of
To the other part.
Yeah.
4 times 7 is 28. 5 minus 28 is negative 23. Go have a break. Not yet. I don't know why it's confusing, Ekdeep. It's x and y. It's just like what you've been doing since the seventh grade. There is no difference, except instead of calling it y, we call it g of x now.
That's not confusing.
Then what's confusing?
I don't know. It's all these numbers that you
I hate to tell you, Ekdeep, math has a lot of numbers.
Yeah, I figured
no way.
Way.
that's just like the way it's been